Here we go. All right, welcome everybody. It is Mammoth After Hours. We're going to have Jamie Shuchuk along here in just a second. Pleased to be joined by Jason Bishop, the big offensive coach, offensive coordinator of your Colorado Mammoth. We haven't talked to you in about, 2 months, and man, have things changed, Coach. What is funny is I went ahead and asked you about Buffalo. Well, now Buffalo's coming up, Coach. You can't tell me. It's one game at a time, but they're the next game. But let's start with this. Obviously, since the last time we talked to you, you've suffered some losses in the lineup. That's always tough. But you guys, you signed Dan Taylor, who was released by the Desert Dogs, a bigger body. I was on a podcast in Buffalo earlier in the week saying, I don't know if people knew how much work Eli McLaughlin was doing, as far as I can remember. There was one game in particular, as Jamie Shuchuk jumps in with us, but there was one game in particular where I remember Eli literally had his shoulder down, blocking off two guys, creating space for Connor Robinson. Eli's a physical player like that. Will Dan Taylor maybe bring a little of that physical element for you when he gets up to speed?
Yeah, for sure. He's like a middle-out player, physical guy, vet, one, you know what I mean? Like, he's a good addition for us, for sure. Gritty. He's a gritty, hard-nosed player, sets hard picks, understands the game. He's good in the two-man. He's good with systems. Like, he would just get injected right into our lineup. So, I don't know. Tough to see. He's going to be at practice this weekend. Excited to have him. We had film last night. It's good.
Yeah, Coach, it's been good to see. Obviously, I'm sorry, just jumping in now, but
we just got going, baby. You're fine. You're fine.
Yeah, just picking up Dan Taylor is obviously awesome, but I mean, Thomas Vella's played great too. I thought the last few games, like he's had the opportunity to step up in the absence of Eli. I feel like you guys always kind of find a way with the guys you have, and kind of these unknown players, are contributing. How important is that? Obviously, it's huge during this stretch, but now you just make it even more competitive, right? There's guys that can get in the lineup that you can trust to get it done.
Yeah, like we had Jalen playing up front too, right? Like Val's, he's been a consistent player all year. Like Val's is a smart lacrosse player, young guy though. He's starting to figure it out, like middle out, and he's setting good picks. He's getting open on the roll. He works good. He works hard. He's, wrong side entry, smart, coming through the wash, a lot. But, I think he's got some finish. He scored 50 goals in junior. Like, he's got some finish that we sort of haven't seen yet. Like, but it's hard when you're, depth chart wise, you're sort of, if you're playing like as a 4 or something, maybe you get 5 shots a game or something like that, where he's really become a worker on that side. Really strong athlete. He's great, but last game we played strong right. So he's actually on the 3 side. So he gets to play in the 2-man a lot. Right. So bit of changes. Jalen was just starting to find a groove, and then Owen Down got hurt. And so we moved Jalen back again, and then Val's played in the 3. We played Dalton Solver up front. We played strong right, where we're typically strong left, right? So adding Dan Taylor will help, though, for sure.
All right, what are you expecting this weekend? I mean, you get the Bandits in town. Cloutier goes on the IR, but we know that, they're the defending champs for a reason. Now, again, I did a podcast in Buffalo, and apparently all the fans of Buffalo are freaking out because, oh, my God, they actually lost 2 in a row, despite having the nice 2-year run there. But what are you expecting? You said you did film last night. What should we expect? Is this the Buffalo team we all know from all the great battles the last couple of years, or are they a little bit different?
No, they're good. They're a solid team. They're anytime you have Josh Byrne and Dane Smith up front, you know what I mean? You got Priolo in the back and Vince, like they're good. They're a solid all-around team. You got to beat them. They're not going to beat themselves, and they're sort of felt like Vancouver sort of hung on there till the end. It was hung on at the end. I don't know. Vancouver's playing good too. I think that any team could beat any team in the league, and I actually think anybody could win. I don't, obviously they have the experience and they've won before. They're a polished group, but I don't know. I think anybody could beat anybody right now. Sask was really good too. Like, Sask was a really good team. So I don't know. We did film last night of us. Like, during the week, the offense gets together. We do film breakdown on the game that we played. And then we do film of Buffalo in Denver before practice, or like the night before or something. We'll do film of them. and go over the scouting report, prep for the network team. So, I mean, I feel like we know Buffalo. I feel like we know Buffalo, and Buffalo knows us. So I think it's going to be good. I'm excited, man. I'm excited.
I got to ask, where did you get that hoodie?
Yeah, the hoodie's sweet. I told him before he jumped
on.
Look
at that thing.
I know it's big. It's like a big furry, fluffy one too. It's like awesome. I got it out of the store. I bought it in the store.
Yes. It looks like from Patty Coyle playing days, maybe, or something. It looks a little outdated, but I love it.
I got it this year.
Some vintage. I love it.
Sort of cooked a bit too. It's got an old vibe to it. It's good.
Yeah. I got my question would be like, it seemed like at the beginning of the year, Buffalo, would they started out 8-0 or something, like kind of unbeatable. They have that confidence. They have all the tools from Matt Vince, like you mentioned, to Josh Byrne and Dane Smith up front, but they have a really good supporting cast and obviously very well coached, fiery competitor with John Tavares. I mean, success everywhere he's been. Like how do you beat a team like that? Like, how do you game plan? I know you guys focus on yourselves and you have your own game plan, but I mean, like, there's got to be that extra push, especially this time of year with 3 games left. You guys are obviously in the mix, but and obviously I believe you guys have home floor advantage anytime you guys are in Ball Arena. So, is the crowd going to help? Is it like an extra sense of focus? Like, does anything change throughout the week? I mean, obviously guys are going to be a little more fired up to play in a game like this.
Yeah, we're sort of preparing the same. Like, last game was a bit of a, I don't know, we've been competitive in a bunch of games. In last game, I felt like, at one point it was 12-2. So, we sort of, that was a tough game. Like, every time we got traction, they either scored or we got a penalty. Like, literally, it felt like we were just going uphill all game. But, preparing sort of after that, we lost in Ottawa. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like I know myself personally, I have like a healthy fear, or like I'm anxious about, like, not that I'm in the outcome, but I'm actually anxious to get going. Like, we're not in the playoffs. We're 8-7. There's 4 teams that are 8-7. I think there's 3 teams that are 7-8, and there's teams that are 6-9 that are playing well. Like, Albany's 6-9 and they're playing really well. They go 9 in the playoffs, like, so for me, like, I don't know. I don't necessarily think it matters who's in front of us. It matters how we play and how we prepare. But I mean, the guys obviously will be up to play Buffalo, the number 1 team, or if Sask's number 1 now or whatever. But I don't know. They hit their stride. They're an amazing team. I don't like them, but I respect them. And, they're in first for a reason. They don't really have a lot of holes. Like, you have to beat them, right? Like, we have to go beat them. So I don't know. I think we're ready to go.
Coach, I'm curious, like, you take a football analogy, and when you're facing Patrick Mahomes, you want to run the ball a little bit. You want to soak the clock a little bit on offense, right? You don't want to give Mahomes 1,000 cracks at your defense. Is there something you guys can do offensively to kind of make sure Dylan doesn't face the 60 shots or whatever again? Like, how would you go about that in lacrosse parlance?
Well, I don't want to tell you our game plan on the podcast.
Right.
I'm sure all of the Buffalo coaches and team are watching this podcast right now. Okay,
I'm very popular all over there, Coach.
This is the formula.
My Twitter handle is just amazingly popular.
I think, yeah, for sure. The challenge with the way our defense plays, the way Wardo plays, how he plays high on his crease. Do you know what I mean? And he's like, we're sort of committed to playing a style of defense that we give up rebounds, and teams get more shots than us typically. You know what I mean? But we shot, I think we only had 41 shots in Sask, and we had 12 goals, 4 shorthanded goals, by the way. But just like our statistics are good if we had 50 shots. Do you know what I mean? Like, we need to our goal as an offense is to have over 50 shots a game. And if we don't hit that, then the game could be tilted one way or the other. But like, just statistically, we need to get to 12. That's going to happen on 50 shots. And we're going to give up more rebounds because of how Wardo plays and how our defense plays. And sometimes it's frustrating because maybe we don't get the ball. The offense doesn't get in the flow. Even with the milkman there, Farrell or whatever, he's pretty good in the circle. So, if he has a score, they get the ball back. You know what I mean? They get a couple of resets. The O's sort of standing there, like vibrating for 2.5 minutes where we don't get into that flow of the game. And that happened in Saskatchewan a bit too with the Nassau kid, or I don't know how to say his name, but he was pretty good in the circle, right? So it can affect us that way, but I don't know. I think value our shots, take them when we got them though, like value our shooting, and we have like a plan. I mean, we're gonna plan our game and play our plan is what we're gonna try to do. You always have to be open to adjust, but yeah, I don't know. We give up rebounds, so they're going to outshoot us.
What about Ryan Laew? He's obviously, we talked about him a lot before the season, right at the start of the season. And, he's obviously got his confidence back and his juice. I feel like, when he went down the year you guys won, Eli, kind of was the guy next, right? And he kind of took things over and had some big games. And you feel like Ryan Laew kind of has that responsibility now, obviously being a vet, everything he's been through physically, mentally, and he's feeling it, man. He's putting up numbers and wins and losses. He's scoring lots of goals, but I feel like he's underrated as a passer too. He's such a good feeder. He finds those seams and it's just on a rope, the way he whips the ball. Do you see, is he carrying that responsibility here at this time of the year with, the way things are going in the locker room and guys getting hurt?
Yeah, for sure. Like Zeddy too, right? Like Zed got hurt, Eli got hurt, and then CK got hurt, right? So the last few games we've been missing 100 goals out of our offense, right? And it's not that we can't get it done with other guys, but just, Lizo's assistant captain for a reason, eh? Like Lizo's wearing the A now, and he's stepped up into that role of leading us. He's our leader of the offense now, and he speaks a lot. He talks in the dressing room. We're we're following him. You know what I mean? But it's also, I feel like his mobility, he sort of just started to get his full mobility. If you watch the Ottawa game, how he was diving around, even last game, he had a couple moves where his foot speed's better. He's actually improving physically as the season's gone on. He's sort of physically gotten stronger and stronger where he's able to do, what he used to do. I still don't think he's at 100%. I still think he's growing as a player. He's still evolving, but man, he's the leader of our offense now for sure.
Coach, we appreciate you taking some time tonight. We're going to get you out of here, and we'll all look forward to talking to you coming up on Saturday, but safe travels, and let's go get them. Bring that sweet sweatshirt. Although watch it around Jamie. You may be missing it by the end of the night.
Yeah, I'm going to have to hit up the store. I need one of those.
That's good. Okay, guys.
Take care.
Talk to you later.
Bud. See ya.
That is Coach Jason Bishop. Now we welcome in Eric Laew. Man, have we got a chance to have you guys all on together yet? I'm trying to remember. Have you guys done a game together? I feel like Eric's had a pitch hint. We've had Gallant move up to the booth. This is the first one in the booth, right, Eric?
Yeah, this is the first one for this year. That'll be in the booth.
So we did one game. We did one game where Eric was on the bench. Yeah.
Well, now we're all together. You guys don't get to do too many together, so here it is. It's the color combo. Although we need to get Johnny in too. I can't forget Johnny. We need to get Johnny on one more time before the end of the year, and we may just let John do the whole half hour without having to ask him a question, because I would put money down he could pull it off. So
100%. You get that guy going, he can talk for days.
All right, boys. They pick up Dan Taylor. Eric, you're the guest. We'll start with you, and then Jamie, I want to get your thoughts, because Coach said we'll see how practice goes. What are we expecting out of Dan Taylor? What can he add as a veteran lefty to this lineup?
He's a veteran guy. He's been around the league for a while. I think he's a player that understands his role, especially coming into the Mammoth. I think it's going to be very clear what they're asking him to do, and it's going to be getting to the inside, getting to the dirty areas, and then working to set a lot of picks and getting Connor Robinson and Will Malcolm open. I think that's what they've been missing, especially with Eli going out, who's such a physical player going in. But, Dan Taylor spent a lot of years with Calgary and fit into that offense well, but was always kind of that straw that stirs the drink. He goes in and he knows what's asked from him. And I think picking up a guy, I think he got released by Calgary, then got released by Sask too, I believe. And I remember seeing that and thinking, something must be going on work-wise or something, because he's too talented of a guy just to be sitting at home. So happy to have him here in Colorado. And I think that the coaches, if everything goes well, I think that they're going to be pleasantly surprised with having him on the bench on Saturday. But we'll see with practice first.
Yeah, I agree. I think looking at his resume, he has 2 rings, one with Saskatchewan, one with Calgary, and he did play. Obviously, you had big names in those lineups for 2016 and 2019, but I think he's the perfect mold for Coach Bishop's offense. And you mentioned how physical Eli is, and obviously he's known to score goals, but we always talk about it. Everybody on that offense does everything. Like even Ryan Lee is mixing it up. Like everybody gets inside and out, right? And you have certain players that have come through and don't play that style, and that's why they're not here, right? So I think it's a great pickup that a guy like that who I'm sure he's thrilled to walk in a locker room of the Mammoth. So I think it's a great pickup. I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't get in the lineup this weekend. Obviously they want to see how practice goes, but I wouldn't be surprised if they want to get him in as quick as they can to see how he meshes in it. Just goes to show you the depth the Mammoth do have up front right now, despite quite a bit of injuries and some non-injury issues as well. But I think it's a great pickup. I think it definitely just strengthens them and gives them more options. And he's big. He's a big guy. They're not very big on that left side. Like Will Malcolm's tall, but he's wiry, skinny, right? So Taylor is definitely going to bring that physical presence that he lost on the other side with Zed going down.
All right, you both had warned about the trip they just got done with. We all knew it was going to be a tough stretch. The Ottawa one is the game that I think you wish you had back. I think you got a nice start to that one, and then it just kind of although I will say you forget they're the New York Riptide sometimes. Some of these Riptide, I have to tell Eric, I think, Eric, didn't you get a chance to play with Teat a little bit? I mean, Jeff Teat is just a stud, so you can't count out a team that he's on, especially when their goaltender got hot.
Yeah.
But what do you guys think? How do you think they did getting through that stretch of 3 straight road games? Jamie, let's start with your thoughts there.
I mean, Saskatchewan's just a powerhouse this year, so I feel like playing in Saskatoon too, from what I hear, is just electric and a great atmosphere. So they definitely have home floor advantage. But definitely agree with you. It's hard to count out these teams. Like I feel like the Vegas loss definitely should have happened, but this Ottawa game didn't really surprise me because they are a really solid team. They have the best player in the world. And they came off from a loss 2 nights previous. So I feel like anytime you have those back-to-backs and the team loses their first game, I think they're tougher to play against that second game. So I think it was just, I thought, and I agree with Bishop, like, you got to shoot the ball, right? I feel like the Mammoth get outshot quite a bit. And when you're on the road, I feel like you got to let them fly and you got to get to the inside. And, so probably not the results they wanted, but 3 tough games here. We always talk about, it's playoff time. Treat it like a playoff game. There's no doubt these guys know it's on the line here, and it'd be interesting to see how they respond from, not a super successful road trip, I guess.
I think it's tough to be happy, if you're the Mammoth coming off that road trip. You drop a couple games and now you're on a little bit of a losing streak heading into the thick of the playoff push, and you're sitting tied with everyone. Even if you can pull one of those games out, your percentages are so much higher. One of the guys, I think it was Grant Perreault, had a tweet today kind of showing the percentages of what teams are at. And Colorado was still in the high 80s, I believe, of, predictions of what are going in. You're able to pull out one of those games, like kind of like Jimmy said, that Vegas game or the Ottawa game. You're able to pull one of those games off and you're feeling a whole lot better about yourself than you are with these last 3 games coming in. So, tough game in Ottawa when you start a rookie goaltender. You're coming off, we talked about it, Jeff T. I think that weekend he had some ridiculous amount of points. I think it was like 30-some points or 25 points in one weekend of games. Like he kind of started getting going again. That Ottawa offense is looking dangerous, and they're getting going. Then you go into Sask, who has a faceoff guy, Jake Naso from Duke, absolutely destroyed the Mammoth, and just kind of anytime the Mammoth was getting anything going with Eli, he was there to answer. And what was it, at 10-2 at one point in that game? So no, you're obviously not happy with those starts, and I'm sure that's going to be a huge key focus of Coach Coyle's message going into this game is not only are you playing Buffalo, but you better get off to a hot start to give yourself a chance in this one. So tough road trip to kind of happen when it did at this point of the season. But the good news is you still have 3 weeks to kind of prove it and you're in. And all it takes in this league, it's any given Saturday. The teams are so close. The talent is so incredibly good throughout the league that anybody can get anyway. I mean, Buffalo lost last week to Albany and then turns around and lose again. And, we were talking on the production call that they haven't lost 3 in a row. They've lost 3 in a row twice in 6 or 7 years or something like that. It's an impressive group. So they got their hands full, but anybody can beat anyone. And once you get into the playoffs, it's anything can happen behind a hot goaltender. And thankfully Colorado's got one of, if not the best one in the league.
All right. So I want you both to talk about this again. Eric, we'll go with you here, but to start, and Jamie, I'm curious your insights on this. I asked Coach about how do you maybe try to control pace with the offense. Of course, he didn't want to divulge anything. You talked about on our production call winning faceoffs, winning loose balls. Is there anything you can do in the offensive end? Do you slow down? Do you try to eat a little more clock? Are you conscious of that, or is the game moving too fast for you to? You just have to take the flow as it goes offensively and try to, because I'd like to see him try to limit the possessions of the Bandits, frankly, but I don't know how ultimately you do that.
It's a tough thing to do, especially in indoor with the 30-second shot clock, and it's constantly going back and forth, and you want your guys to be making plays and playing free. But I think there is something to be said about trying to generate more rebounds and then working on the offensive end, kind of that ride back and that forecheck of making sure that you're doing everything you can to pick up a lot of loose balls to limit those. The biggest thing is going to be on the offensive end is like when you have a shot, it needs to be a well-placed, smart shot. Too many times, Buffalo just kills you in reverse transition. I mean, you see Ian McKay, he's, I think, third on the team in points as a transition guy. He's got 30 goals on the year. So anytime someone shoots, he's run up the field and trying to create transition. So it's going to come down to, Wardo's got to play really well. Timmy's got to fight at the dot. He's got to make it a much of a 50-50 game. You're not allowing this team to go on runs. And then on offense, you got to be smart, not give up really bad reverse transition. Obviously it's always easier said than done, but you got to be smart, but the game's too fast. So you can't pull just an NFL and just run the clock down and don't let Patrick Mahomes touch the ball. But right. You just got to be smart of the possessions that you are giving them.
Jamie, what would you do? How would you attack them?
Well, yeah, I mean, if you look at their team and, obviously it's, you start with the offense with number 92 and 22, right? And just, so yeah, you want to limit their chances, but like Eric just said, they're dangerous in transition. So you got to be aware in the offensive end, if guys are leaking, you're going to have to get back. Like there's a lot of little factors that you just, those little details of the game. If you make mistakes on them, it's going to hurt you against a team like Buffalo. So the margin for error is already small enough in this league, but when you're playing a team like Buffalo coming off 2 losses, I think even more so. But that being said, clearly we know that head coach Pat Coyle, Bishop, Dan McRae are going to have a good game plan. And I think it's just, like Eric said, the execution is not always there. And it's, being an offensive guy, I mean, I'm sure Eric's had games where he's taken 10 to 15 shots and maybe has 1 or 2, and you're like, I should have 4 or 5, right? But, just some days it doesn't go for you. And it's not like you're not trying, right? Like it's just one of those details. I think it's just paying attention to the details. And the Mammoth are such a composed team. You focus on that and you see what happens. But, definitely got to get to Matt Vince. I mean, it's not easy to do. He's you got to pick your spots on him, complete opposite style of what we see with Dylan Ward playing that high arc. Matt Vince is big and strong and athletic, and he just sits back and, is really good at reading the ball. So you have to place your shots with him. So I think it's just, the execution and focus on the details, and because otherwise the mistakes are going to be put in the back of the net. And the last thing too is, I could probably, hopefully you don't get in trouble saying it on this podcast, but you never know what you're going to get with the officials. We've seen it a lot this year in Ball Arena. And, sometimes there's, in my mind, been a little bit, a little ticky-tacky calls, but that's what the league is doing, try to clean things up. So those types of calls, when the game's, super emotional and, back and forth, one of those little ticky-tacky calls can just kill momentum for a team just like that. So I think that's a factor too. Just be aware and test the refs early, but definitely adapt to what they're calling.
Yeah, the whistle was interesting last week, to say the least, especially at the end of the game there, but whatever. All right. What do you think TJ Comizio's added? I guess you both brought up ground balls. One of the things I think with TJ is ground balls. But what do you think he's added for them? We had him on last week. Seems to be excited to be here. What have you seen from him?
He's an electric player from the D end. I think he brings a lot of energy. I think he brings a lot of juice. He's a guy that, a couple of years ago, I remember doing one of the Swarm Mammoth games, and he was second in the league and caused turnovers. So he's a guy that can get up and down the floor. And as an American guy, I think that he's one of the smarter ones. I think that he is able to help on that back end of kind of help control things with Robert Hope and Warren Jeffrey on that back end. But he's kind of almost filled into that Joey Capito role of being able to get up and down the floor. And he does a great job of transitioning that ball from defense to offense. And anytime you can add a veteran guy who kind of knows his way around is a huge advantage. And it's proven. And it's, I was shocked when they got him, because if I was Georgia, I don't know if I would have given him up. He's one of those kind of key glue guys that huge add for the Mammoth.
Yeah, going back to loose balls, I want to get your opinion on this, Eric. I sort of have mine. I don't think it's final yet, but we always talk about our face-offs important in box lacrosse. Being a field guy, clearly they are. Possessions are huge in outdoor, even with the shot clock now, getting that face-off, that momentum. But, I feel like in the NLL, what I always say is it's the timing of them. You know what I mean? Like, you could still have, one team just dominate the face-off circle and lose pretty bad, right? So it's like, I feel like this game, though, face-offs are definitely going to be a factor. And also, too, like Fennell's a face-off guy, right? He may be a liability on the back end. So, his sole job is to get the face-offs, where a guy like Timmy Edwards is a lot more valuable because, he's been in the league longer, I think, and he's definitely developed as a defensive player. But, how important are face-offs and box lacrosse? And then what do you think about this game?
It's so tricky. I feel like the game has changed so much, even from, the few couple games I even got in. I remember, back in 2013, 14, 15, it was like the guys who were going out there, you either had Jeff Schneider or you didn't. And, he was going to win pretty much every face-off, and everyone else was just going to try to get it out and make it a 50-50 ball. And then, you had guys come around like Joe Nardella, Trevor Baptiste, TD Erlin, who were, just straight face-off guys in the outdoor game. But then they're coming into the indoor game. Guy. Yeah, and they're Stathkiss is getting in there. So they're guys that are just face-off guys in the outdoor game, but they're coming into the indoor game and learning how to play a little bit on the D end. But, Farrell's kind of just stuck to just taking the face-offs and getting there. But like you said, you can get killed in every single face-off, but as long as it's not hurting you immediately into that offense, I don't think it's that huge of a thing personally. But it's when there's runs where they score, get the ball back, score on that first possession, then get another one, then get another one. But, I think they come into the most play, like you said, every faceoff isn't created the same, but fourth quarter, you're tied. You got to get that ball back and call a timeout and get your offense out there to try to get a play. So ground balls is going to be the biggest thing. Timmy's got to do everything he can to try to jam Farrell up. And then when Farrell does get the ball, absolutely swarm him and just try to make a mistake and throw the ball away. So even if he does win it, make him get a turnover, throw it into the corner, and then get the ball back and get a full 30.
All right, let's have a little fun before we say goodnight here. Farrell obviously made the rounds on social media, wagging the tongue and acting like a madman in front of the glass, and everybody could see it, got a good camera angle of it. I want to know from each of you, again, we'll start with you, Eric, who's the craziest dude you've played with? Who's the nuttiest personality you've played with in your career?
Oh,
might be the same guy. I don't know if you got the honor to play with him.
Who would you go? Throw him out there then, Jamie, if you know yours.
Brian Langtree.
I knew you were going to say Langtree.
I mean, absolutely hands down. That guy was electric. And I can't repeat what was said on this podcast, but we played in Madison Square Garden, and him and I both went to the penalty box together, and some 10-year-olds came and were chirping, and what he said to these kids and their face after, I couldn't believe it. There's many stories. Come to a Denver Elite tournament one weekend, Elah, and have some beers in the hotel room with me and Johnny, and we'll have some good stories for you. But
did you play with
Langtree hands
Snyder?
down.
Did you play with Snyder, Elah?
Yeah.
I never played with Jeff, and I actually never played with Langtree, but Langtree was my coach my freshman year of high school. And I learned a lot that year, to say the least. A lot of lacrosse and a lot of off the field things to do and things not to do. I did learn that year.
He's the best. He's the best.
He's incredible lacrosse mind, and I'm sure.
I also got to say, like, getting the crowd, something that I saw that Farrell thing, and but I was playing in the game. I was actually on Minnesota, but Bro Chill.
I was going to bring him up. Yeah.
Connor Martin scored one of his maybe 3 goals he ever scored in the league, and then did a backflip off the wall. And there's actually a picture of him midair that's just amazing. But that got the crowd going. I wasn't a big fan. Like, if someone did that back in Canada in a game, like, you're getting pumped. And I was sitting on, I was on the bench and with the Minnesota guys. We had Rory Smith. We had some tough guys on that team, and we're all just looking at each other like, what the hell is that?
Do we do something about that or not?
What do we do? Who is this guy? Right, that was the biggest thing. Like, who is this guy? But that was pretty wild seeing the fans get into that one. But
see, it's funny you bring up Jeff Snyder, because again, and I got to know Jeff a bit. I feel like sometimes I'm the only guy that likes Jeff. Jeff was so cool to me, and then I hear all these stories. But I did see it click on one time. So the inaugural year of the Outlaws, I was the sideline guy, and I would stand in the penalty boxes, right? Just so familiar position. I want to watch the game from here. And I heard Jeff do you remember the face-off guy from Penn State that played for like the Chicago team? He was this big, he was so
Greg
yoked
Grinling,
up.
Yeah. The beast.
Yeah. Well, he didn't look like a dude I'd be popping off to. How about I just put it that way? And the things that, like, Jeff made mafia level threats to this guy every time they came off the field. And I could not believe some of the stuff coming out of his mouth. Did you guys ever, were either of you talkers? Have any of you ever said anything where you're like, what happened there? Have you ever just lost yourself like that?
As offensive guys, you can't.
I don't have the ability to do that. I mean, I would chirp and, like, get a little cocky and maybe be, throw some chirps out there, but never threatening it, something that I couldn't back up for sure. I knew my role there, but Jeff was one of the most, competitive guys that's ever played our sport. I know him from, he's actually another Alberta guy, went to Burnaby, a little bit older than me, so kind of similar path. He played at DU, but he's got that edge, but he's a big softy. If you get to know Jeff, he's a great teammate, but just he's a fiery competitor, and what he says he will do to you, he will do. So
well, I don't want to be on the bad side of what he says then, because I always enjoyed talking ball with him. I thought he was really cool, and there you go. All right, guys, I appreciate you jumping on. Jamie, we'll do it again next week. Jamie, you're back next week, right? I'm trying to remember. What do we got going on for the crew? Does Eric need to know anything right now? Is Johnny out of 10 again too?
I'm in. That's the 12th, right?
Yeah. We ought to just get everybody there. We ought to just blow it out. I mean, who needs a budget, right? We'll just have guys all over the place. We'll put you and Johnny each on a bench there, Eric.
That'd be awesome.
How about that? So, all right, guys, we appreciate everybody jumping on with us tonight. Again, the game's 7:00. They're playing Buffalo. Come on, Mammoth Faithful. We need you out there. The Loud House needs to be loud. These guys have not been home in a month. They've lost, they were doing it without Connor Kelly. Rough road trip. Let's get back, get this thing right. We'll talk to you guys on the game Saturday. We'll talk to you on the podcast next week. Good night, all.